Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. First turning project of the year. I did mention on the New Year's Day video that I'd been hunting around the shed and found these necklace parts, and the first thing I've done is this off-centered pendant, and hopefully you can see that okay on the camera there. I will show some pictures up in the corner here as well because obviously it is fairly small. It certainly wasn't my first attempt at doing this. I did have quite a few practices this morning. I was initially trying to turn something between centres totally like that and doing all the off-centre turning, but because I was coming down to this sharp point, this was obviously with the tailstock pressure making it fairly weak, pushing it into the stem centre. And it was the same with all of them. I mean, I even had one snap. Eventually I did resort to turning something and putting in the chuck and tipping it off centre, and I came up with initially a small thing like that. My daughter said it was disgusting. Certainly do not put that on a necklace. It almost looks like a small tooth. In the end, when I'd finished that, I picked up a piece of Paduk, probably not much bigger than that, which is, as you can see, an end from when I was doing my segmented work, and glued that to a piece of oak, left it for about half an hour, and then went onto the lathe where I finally come up with this. And you'll see in the video in a moment, even where these smaller jaws only hold by a small amount, because the work is so small, you can actually get quite a tilt on it and it's still securely held. Now obviously if you want to be more safe, then bring up the tailstock to give it that extra support, but eventually you do turn away the end here so that you will eventually lose where you can give that support. Got a piece of Paduk here, an offcut, which I use for segmented turning, and a small piece of oak there, and you can see the glue is still wet on the outside there, so it's recently been glued, probably about half an hour ago, so it's more than secure. Got this between centres, just need to true this up so that I can then mount it in the chuck, and for speed I'm just going to use the screw on this one. Now I've just trued this end up here so that I can now fit that into my chuck. Because I want to do this as off-centre turning, I need to tip this in the chuck. Now because I want to go off-centre, I want to tilt this in the jaws a little bit, so I'm just going to put 4 marks on here. As you can see, we're probably about 3 mil out from that centre point, and to make sure that I can line these up, I'm just going to then pierce that with the live centre, and hopefully you can see where we're tightening the jaws up, it's got these marks on the wood, so it means it will locate and hold properly. But to now do all my angles, and it's best to do this beforehand, I'm just going to bring the live centre up to one of those marks I've just pierced. So that'll be where it's tipped upwards on jaw 1. Going to tighten the chuck up, and it will then create another set of marks. I can bring that back, do that with the opposite side. That's now where it's tilted down on jaw 1, and again retighten the jaws just to get those imprints, loosen it off, bring up the live centre again and re-put it on the next point. First job I want to do is just take this down a fair bit thickness wise. first thing I want to do is put an outside curve on one side. So I'm going to do that by bringing the work up closer, tilted up on jaw 1. So again, I can use the live center just to find that hole and retighten up on the jaws. Now it's always a good idea just to stop and just check what you're doing, so I can see where the centre point is now. I've now actually lost one of my marks that was on this side, which is just a consequence of using such a small piece of wood. So I can see the centre point is about there, and I've got my curve. So now I can then tilt this the opposite way and take the curve out on the other side. I now need this back to central on jaw 1 and then tipped out. And this is where those grooves help, because as I say, I've lost my mark on the end here. So this time I need to take the curve out this way. And again, just stopping what I'm doing. So as you can see, I've now got a curve running all round. So I just need to carry on with this to thin it out. I need to take an awful lot more off the bottom here, because I want the bottom here to come more to a point as well. Right, I need to then go back on the opposite side and take the curve round it from the other side. Now the main thing to this, because of the off-centre turning, you need to really stop regularly just to make sure what you're doing for shape-wise. So if I have to keep flipping around in different axes, then I'll do so. I'm quite happy with the shape I've got on the back here now, and I just need to take some more of this out. So it means flipping it around again on the opposite axis. Right, now to bring down the width on this is then where I need to then rotate it on the opposite axis, but then just take slight amounts out. So I'll put this back onto central first of all, and then come out to one of the sides. Right, so it's taking this side out. Now I can then put it on the opposite side. So let's jaw 1, back into central, out on this side, and then repeat the same for this side. So that is just about the right shape now, and I just need to straighten this off. So I'm back fully aligned, and then just do something on here. And the last thing really is all hand sanding, just to smoothen it all out. And I'm going to pass it off on here. And it's just really marking the points so I know where I've got to go down to. I'll need to start off with something fairly coarse to start with, like 80 grit. I'm just going to run with the grain. And it smoothens the whole piece out a lot better. So now I've got everything smoothed off shape wise, so there's no sharp edges on it. I can just go through the grits and exactly the same way. Right, so that's been sanded up through the grits right up to 600. And there we go. Just needs a little bit of sanding just to take that nub off the top there and tidy that off. So I've got my finished piece there now. I've just sanded off the top there so it's nice and smooth. And there's several ways of finishing this off. It's obviously going to be hard to put a wax on the lathe because of all the off-centre bits. But you can, if I'd put a hook in here already, an eye hook, I could hang it and spray it with a spray lacquer. It would be absolutely fine. It would be brilliant as well because it would be hard wearing. Just for speed, I'm going to use the buffing wheel here. And I don't know how well that shows on the camera there, but hopefully you can see the difference between the top and the bottom there. That's come up quite nicely. And I think because of the deep grain on the Badook, it's actually filled with the yellow wax off the wheel. But it's come up really nice. So all I need to do now is just drill a very small pilot hole, find some eye hooks and get that mounted. Now it was actually quite a fun project to do, even though I've had several failures this morning, which I didn't video anyway because I was just trying to make sure that I could get something with the right shape of wire to start with. And after I had produced the little tooth, I knew that I could actually do something a little bit better, and which is where I came up with that one. Now I like the idea with the two-tone wood, and this is another classic example that you can use absolutely any scraps of wood you've got on your shelf. You just want something big enough, in my case where I was doing it, to hold it in the jaws so that you can tilt it at different angles. Now that's the first project of the year, literally using scraps, and hopefully I'm going to have a few more to come up. Thanks a lot for watching.